Hello and welcome to another great episode with the Ladies of Vantage Point. I'm Natalie and I'm here with Alexa and Serge, and we are so happy to come to you again with season 3 with bigger and more bold topics. So today we're going to talk about something really bold. It is the strong woman syndrome. And we thought it was so fitting and appropriate to invite two guest extraordinary co-hosts to join us on our virtual couch. So today we have Natasha Charles, who was born in Trinidad. Hey, shout out to Trinidad and Tobago, but also raised in Staten Island. So we're so happy to have you. Thank you, Natasha, for joining us. And then we have our Philly girl, Miss Bessie Mason, who's also here joining us. Thank you, Bessie. We are so excited to have you both. So, the strong woman syndrome. I was reminded of this quote that I used to read. I remember reading it on my kitchen magnet for many, many years. And I'd say, yeah, that's me. And it read like this: a woman is like a tea bag. You can't tell how strong she is until you put her in hot water.
Hot water. That sounds just about right when we're talking about the strong woman syndrome. It's funny because just that phrase alone, it gives you kind of a feeling of something that's really positive in one sense. Like you want to be that strong woman syndrome. That's something to aspire to. I want to be known as a strong woman. But at the same time, it has such a negative. When you kind of like peek behind the curtain and you start thinking about all the negatives that actually come out from trying to be a strong woman, the strong woman syndrome. I want to just toss it out to you ladies. I want to get into solutions. I want to get into how we get around this. But I also just want to know from all of you, have you experienced this? It seems like it's the kind of thing that comes up in our careers. It comes up obviously in business. It comes up in relationships. It comes up in the medical field, in the mental health field. So I just want to know from you ladies, are you experiencing that? Has it crept up in your lives and how you feel about it?
Well, Alexa, it's amazing. You touched on the part when it says sometimes people look at it from a positive perspective and also a negative perspective. And I know for me personally, I was afraid to be that strong, powerful woman because of that negative concept that comes along with it. It's amazing to me when a man is in a position of power, he is marveled, he's respected. But when a woman is in a position of power, she's looked upon a little differently. Yeah. And especially amongst our fellow sisters. And I remember there was an incident where I if anyone knows me, I love to play dress up, right? And I was going to an all-white affair, and I must have changed my outfit 100 times. And finally, my mom looked at me and she said, "Why do you keep changing your outfit? The first one was perfect." I said, "Well, I don't want to be too much." And she says, "Well, how do you dim light?" You are who you are. It's in you, so you have to exude what you are. Don't try to put something over it because I want to make you comfortable. Because clearly you are intimidated by my position. Because when you think of power, it is an inherent characteristic. It's something that you embody. It's something that is within you. And you have to allow it to manifest itself. Because the truth of the matter is your position of power is really for someone else.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's good. That's good. So do you feel like you're basically a threat to someone? And I'll just take this, for instance, in business. Do you feel like you're a threat when your light is fully shining, when you're really being yourself? Why is there such a power dynamic that goes back to that zero-sum situation where if I'm powerful, that means somehow you can't be?
I'd like to answer that. This is Bessie. And going back to in the career field, when you are a strong woman, there is a negative connotation that actually comes with that. And even circling back to what Serge said in terms of dimming your light, I've had an experience with that in every job that I've actually held. And most recently, I tried to dim my light for 6 years, trying to position others in power to make them look better, but at the same time, not coming across as too much, like Serge said, or thinking that I know too much or that I'm too smart, even minimizing my credentials. right? And not even trying to let anyone know too much about what I've accomplished in my past. So I think that although it is a good thing to be, there are negative connotations that come along with that. And sometimes because of who you are and the skin you're in, because I can tell you that some of my counterparts don't struggle with that, with being a strong woman, but that some of us, we shrink back. You know, in the book Lean In, there are all of these topics around how women at the table are supposed to lean in. But as a woman of color, I say I don't necessarily lean in. I pivot, I adjust, and I try to fit the dynamic around me instead of leaning in.
And does that work?
No,
Your adjustments, your pivoting?
no, it leaves me exhausted, but it doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, and see, and that's the problem. It always comes back to us. You know, we're not the ones who are supposed to be dimming our light to fix this situation. I know someone was talking about how if you're that strong woman in business, the idea is that you don't need help. And I was talking to a young lady and she was saying that she can see her counterparts get the education they need, get the extra classes they need, get assistance that they need. But when it comes to her, it's like, oh, you don't need help. You're fine. You're fine. The problem with that is that if she succeeds, it feeds into that narrative, you didn't need help. If she fails, then all of a sudden it's personal. Well, you just couldn't cut it.
I like that.
You're nodding. What are you thinking, Natalie?
I mean, there's the contrary here. Like we, dim my light, then also be strong and be fierce. So it's like, am I a little bit too much or too little, and finding that balancing act. And particularly women of color, this is daunting and exhausting. There's the code switching. You walk into a room and you can't be as assertive and as articulate and as expressive because now you're emotional and or perceived as emotional, but really secure and demonstrating strength in your thought and in your speech. So I totally get where Serge was coming from in terms of dimming your light. Because I think I've been there before. And then I was like Bessie, like, no, I can't dim my light. How dare I dim what's inside of me and what I can bring to the table. But what I struggled with or have struggled with is the cost of it all. So, I always thought I was a strong person and in different settings. So, the way I moved socially and personally and relationally, as well as professionally and in ministry and in other groups that you may belong to, I think I was more strong in other places compared to others. But specifically in one particular, like in my personal life, which definitely your personal life and your professional life can blend, they absolutely affect each other. But I really thought I was a strong, solid woman until I literally lost it all. And I learned that I was committed to suffering in silence. I was committed to portraying, I had it together. And I knew how to smile and say hello and engage with people, all the while I'm hemorrhaging on the inside because I felt like too many people were relying on me.
So no, go ahead.
So, but things started to happen. When I talk about the cost, I think about, friendships that changed. There were shifts because nobody knew what I was going through. I had a marriage that ended. My work didn't really, I did good work, but I could have done extraordinary work had I let it all out. But I couldn't let my counterparts see or even know a little bit that, hey, I need a PTO. I need some leave to get myself together. Yeah. But we don't do that until sometimes it's too late.
Yeah, and so the problem is duration. No human being can go on and on and on forever without getting help, without getting assistance. That's why you need a vacation. That's why they say on the plane, put your mask on first and then help the young person next to you. I mean, we just all basically need help, right? But one of the things I find that's so common is that we're not asking. What is behind that when we do not ask for help? Is it martyrdom? Is it pride? Well, what is that?
I think a combination of all those things. It's all about portrayal. And I think culturally it's embedded in our psyche that we are to be strong. Let me say, these are the messages that I receive, that we are to be strong. I mean, look at just the media and music. I already, I default to, I'm a fan of Alicia Keys, but her song about, being a superwoman and a strong woman, images that we see on TV, a lot of the shows and movies, I think about, Olivia Pope, how she just came in and handled everything. And she just, she would end things by saying, it's handled, and you kind of aspire to want to be that. And I mean, there's some glamour in there, but to your point, Alexa, there was in her character, she exploded and led to really deadly or toxic, almost criminal behavior.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I'm thinking about just exploding or coming to an end, think about how even in the medical field, where the strong woman syndrome says you never ask for help. And there was a woman who actually was, turned out that she was in a stage 4 cancer and didn't realize it, because she would never get medical attention. She would never go to the hospital. She would never stop, because why? Her husband came first. Her kids came first. Her career came first. I mean, she was always on the treadmill. And Bessie, I see you shaking your nodding your head. You can understand where this is going, right?
I can definitely understand where this is going and think about how it impacts our health. And even when sick, not like Natalie said, not taking a PTO day. My mom died when I was 15 years old, and she actually had cervical cancer, had all the clinical signs of cervical cancer. I didn't know that then. I wasn't in the medical profession then, but here she was hemorrhaging, and she was worried about getting me through school. And she was worried about how the bills were going to be paid. And she was worried about being that strong woman, strong enough to the degree that she wouldn't have a hysterectomy, because she thought that she would be away from work too long and that she would be unable to keep the house. And as a result of that, unfortunately, she lost her life as a result of that, because by the time she sought medical help, it was already too late. And I think of myself, sometimes I put everyone first. I had someone say to me, if that were your son, you would have taken him to the doctor long ago. If that was someone else, you would have told them to take off. But here, you pride yourself on working with fluency of the lung, or going to work when you're sick, you can't lift your right arm. But I think that there's strong, and then there's foolishly strong, right? And there's strong that we should know better strong. And, that's the part that I'm actually working on, and putting my mask on first. So thank you for saying that before I can help anybody else.
Yeah. Natasha, do you ever see that the blurring of those lines where you're thinking, I've been raised, or I've been told, or I've been shown? We were talking about Trinidad, we were talking about New York, the different cultures that you've been in, and that you've just been shown this is what you're supposed to do, even to your own detriment?
Absolutely. I was raised by a strong woman. That's all I seen. And to see her raise her 3 daughters, and she was the mommy and daddy, so just seeing her do everything. And she was a great provider. She's a great mom. She really wore all the hats. And it was amazing that she wore all those hats and looked fabulous. So as far as seeing that, I didn't know any other way. So I think one of the things of being that strong woman, and also raised by a strong woman, we're doing it and not even knowing that we're doing it, hence the detriment. So for myself, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I figure, okay, I'm just going to go in there and do it. And I believe Natalie mentioned something about, well, everybody's just going to have you do it. Oh, you got it. And that's how I do. I got it. So if you think I got it, I do. And I'll show you I got it. And looking fabulous while I get it. But I'm not seeing that this is a problem. It took me, I think, well in my late 30s to realize that this is not a cool road to be on.
Yeah, it's not cool. It's not sustainable. And it really doesn't show the core, I think, of who we all are. We have to believe in our own importance. We have to kind of put our own importance first sometimes. And that gets back to something you were saying earlier, Serge, in terms of being real, showing the world who the real you is. And you have to think, so I'm asking you, what is your superpower? Like, what is that thing that you bring to the table that you refuse to compromise? That you just refuse to compromise?
To compromise who I am, and I had to learn that. As I said earlier, I used to dummy myself down or think I was lesser than, simply because I thought that I did not qualify, or I would instantly think I don't deserve to have a seat at your table, until I realized that there's more to me. And once I started to really take in who I am, self-aware, and being honest with myself, being that authentic self, and also being confident. And I started to wear confidence like I wear my jewelry, like I wear my blouse, and I realized, like, this is who I am. And I will attract those who are called to me and who I'm called to.
Yeah.
And those who are not, they're going to find my light insulting. So I had to take it. And to your point, Nat, I like what you said. Once you start to acknowledge, and I like to call that self-aware, once you start to acknowledge who you are, your entire environment, your world starts to shift. And sometimes the shifting is painful. Sometimes you don't understand the why behind the what. But as you continue to walk in your truth, you start to see things differently. It's all the best way I could describe it. It's like an enlightenment. And then you start to understand why you do the things you do. And you start to embrace your makeup. You start to embrace why you're wired the way you are wired. And then after a while, you'll start to see some things disconnect and you'll see some things attract. And that's the real you. And then once you tap into that power, trust you me, you start to see your life, your world starts to shift, and those around you. Because once I started to understand that I am here for a reason and a purpose, and I didn't always think that way. And I didn't get that enlightenment until I was in my 30s. And I'm in my 40s now. And once I started to understand that, my life, talk about a peace and understanding, and I'm constantly evolving. And that's the part that is so beautiful. Ladies, I enjoyed y'all. And I wish we could talk more. I have a feeling there's going to be a part 2 to this discussion. I have a feeling, I'm secretly hoping there's a part 2 to this discussion. But as always, thank you once again for this robust conversation. And to our viewers, subscribe, like, and share to all our social media platforms, Ladies of Vantage Point. And I'm going to close with this. Power is an essential quality that is a part of you. Be self-aware, be honest, and be confident. Don't fear the power within you. Become the power. So as always, you've heard our Vantage Point. We love to hear yours.